Hey everybody, welcome back to 10 and 10. It's week 6 NFL, week 7 college football. He's Tony Ramone, I'm Scotty Ramone. Marky Ramone behind the camera. Not that Marky Ramone. Settle down, he's our Marky Ramone. Anyway, 10 and 10, we've got 10 games coming up. Sexy college football card this week, and we got half a dozen games to talk about. Let's jump right into it. Now this is going to be our college football marquee video, so for the in-depth stuff, you're going to want to watch the video, The Red River Rivalry. Takes place this weekend on Saturday. Oklahoma, of course, taking on Texas. The Sooners, Tony, laying 11, total 75.5. Real quick note, the game of the year line of the Golden Nugget way back in late May, early June was 6.5. So there has been, obviously, an adjustment on the Oklahoma Sooners.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts probably worth the adjustment the way he's played it at Oklahoma. And, of course, Ellinger at Texas is no slouch either.
Exactly.
This is going to be one hell of a football game. Cotton Bowl, Texas State Fair. I've been to this game 5 times.
Oh,
You've
man.
never seen anything like it in your life, and it is going to be our marquee matchup, so you're going to want to tune in for that. Did I mention it's rivalry?
Absolutely.
Double digits
Well,
rivalry?
we used to call it the Red River Shootout, but
Yeah.
that's back when we weren't wimps. Now it's the Red River Rivalry. But as far as this game is concerned, and we'll talk about this, we'll dive into who we like in the marquee matchup. Just know that Texas 6-1 against the spread the last 7 meetings. I know you're going to talk about a big SEC game in a moment, but I wanted to tell everybody that there is a free $60 account over at DocSports.com, and it's a real cool way to give it a trial run. If you've yet to become a member at DocSports.com, click on the link below this page, set yourself up for that free $60 account, and it comes with the DocSports.com guarantee, and you can use it on his daily packages, my daily packages, or anybody else on the roster over at DocSports.com, Tony.
Yes, and college football's been good to me this year. 5 Saturdays in a row profit, unbeaten with top plays, and great weekend to get the free $60 because I got my biggest game of the season so far this Saturday. Speaking of big games, let's go down the SEC. LSU taking on the Gators. Gators, big win last week. Sorry about the free play loss. I did take Auburn. I lost a stake to him. We'll talk about that later. Rough day in the free play department. But nonetheless, Florida got all over Auburn, and LSU, you know, Scott, a lot of people had Utah State last week covering that number with this game on deck. We talked about it here, and they put Utah State over their knee and spanked their ass. 58 points per game, top of the nation, and of course the Florida stop unit, only 8.8 points per game this year. Something's got to give, Scott.
Spanked them right the Aggie. I like the over in that game. They didn't get there because Utah State was completely shut down by this LSU defense. LSU put 42 on the board. 70% of the tickets thus far on this game, it's early, it's midweek, but 70% of the tickets have come in on LSU. How about the game of the year number on this one? LSU was a 4.5-point favorite. They are now laying 13.5 in this one. Here's the thing, man. This will be the first real test for LSU as far as their passing game, their new look style of offense going up against a legit defensive backfield that's been pretty well top 20 this year in yards passing allowed the Florida Gators. That's the big clash in this one. Florida, by the way, has covered 7 of the last 10 at LSU. Baton Rouge on a Saturday night.
Oh man,
my gosh.
Death Valley.
It's going to be shaken.
Dan Mullen, head coach, last 25 times as an underdog between Mississippi State and Florida. 18 and 17 and 8, Scott, against the spread. That makes that a little more interesting. There's another game in the SEC.
Absolutely. We haven't talked about Bama that much this year because the schedule's been a little bit soft.
Everybody else is talking about
Absolutely.
them. ESPN, Paul Feinbaum, you get your Alabama fill every day.
I've done Paul Feinbaum's show before. I've heard he's a little bit of a homer. Not too bad, but a little bit. But anyway, Alabama laid 17 here to A&M. By the way, this was as high as 18 in some spots Tuesday afternoon, as low as 16.5 a little bit later on. And we're kind of seeing right now a situation where Bama's getting about 65% of the tickets, yet with that line inching down a little bit, that means we could have a pros versus Joes game here with the Joes, the public on Alabama, and the pros, God bless them, taking those points with A&M. I'll tell you this much. Main concern for me, Tony, is that this A&M team cannot run the football so far.
No.
97th of the nation in yards rushing per game. I don't think you can be one-dimensional and hang with Alabama for a full 4 quarters.
The one thing that bothers me is the injuries that Bama has on the defensive line. They're starting a lot of freshmen.
Sure.
Of course, they're the best freshman in the country, but nonetheless, they'll be ready for the pros by the time they're a junior. But at the end of the day, I have not seen Mons perform well in big games. He looked bad against Clemson. Yep. Auburn just absolutely went in there.
Sure.
That final score in that Auburn A&M game was not indicative of how bad that Auburn dominated them here.
Boy. 2 picks last year against Bama, did Mond.
Yeah.
You know, so he has his problems when he goes up against elite-level defenses, don't we all?
Yeah. Speaking of elite-level defenses, I don't think there's going to be too many in this game, and this would be our Mark Peterson special. That would be behind the camera, Mr. Chicago Cub, Mr. Notre Dame, the Irish, 11-point favorites. That line may have changed already, taking on U.S.C. The one thing that I'll tell you about Notre Dame, New Mexico, Louisville, Bowling Green, I've written all these down.
Sure.
And if it wasn't for Perkins and Virginia turning the ball over 4 times in that game, Virginia had an outside shot of beating them.
A misleading final score there. You're absolutely
Very
right.
misleading final score, and I don't know. I know they went down and made a good showing at Georgia, obviously. But at the end of the day, double digits here with U.S.C. I know about Helton's record in big games, this, that, and the other, but I don't know. I'm thinking this might be a little bit too much.
I worry about U.S.C. with the quarterback situation. I know Slovis is listed as questionable as we cut this video, but if he doesn't go, you got Matt Fink again. You're talking about a third-string quarterback on the depth chart who came into a game looking pretty decent. That was against Utah, I believe. But in his first start, he didn't look too hot, but he actually had to think about it before he came into a football game. And 2 things I need. People are asking, like, can USC upset Notre Dame this year? Not just against the spread, but also outright. And I'm like, boy, if I'm going to jump on an underdog like this, you better be able to run. You better be able to stop the run. USC does neither, Tony. Florida State at Clemson. I threw this one on there because we don't get enough chances to talk about the Clemson Tigers. I think there is a little bit of an advantage with the Clemson coaching staff, Tony. You can correct me on that if I'm wrong. 27-point favorite are the Clemson Tigers. Listen, let's give the Noles a little bit of credit. They played better in their last couple of games than they did in their first 2, but they cannot run the football. 108th in the nation. Clemson with the bye week, coming off the 1-point game against North Carolina, might be fired up for this one.
Well, the one thing I'll tell you about this is I'm really kind of shy about laying the 27, 27.5. It's going to be 28. If they're going to lay 27 on Clemson, by Saturday they're going to lay 28 or 29. They don't care. They're going to want to pound them. But Clemson has not impressed me this year overall in numerous spots. Of course, the North Carolina game, but the one motivational factor here I think you need to figure into this game is while they were on the bye week, they dropped out of first into second.
A little ticked off football.
And they're going to be a little ticked off football team dialed in. And I bet Venables has got something special dialed up for Hornibrook and that offense of Florida State, which has been iffy. And bear in mind, Florida State needed overtime to beat UL Monroe in Tallahassee. I think maybe Clemson may come out a little bit fired up in this one. Here is a great game here in the Big Ten. And last week, Iowa just went up and laid an egg at Michigan. And they're at home catching 4.5 against Penn State, who's unbeaten. This is my free pick, Scott. And I do like the home dog here. I like Iowa to bounce back at home here this week. Now, bear in mind, why they couldn't get a lap dance with the Spearmint Rhino with a fistful of hundreds last week on offense, in the big house. Bear in mind, they held Michigan to 271 yards and 10 points in their own house. Stanley just could not get it going. 3 picks last week. But when you take a look at Penn State, I want you to take a look at strength of schedule. Idaho, Maryland, Pitt, Buffalo, and a walking
What are you trying to say?
I'm trying to say that Iowa's battle tested. I like them catching over the fall number of 3 at home. I'll take a plus 4.5 unless you're going to disagree.
No, man.
Or can I double down on the state I lost last
we only
week?
get to take 4. So we can't. But here's the thing. We don't talk about who our free pick is going to be before we do these videos. We're both on the same free pick here, so let's go get them, Hawkeyes.
Well, there you go.
Iowa, by the way, was a 2-point favorite on the Game of the Year lines. They're now a 4-point underdog. He mentioned all the good stuff, so I'm going to say ditto. I will add this to it, that you've got an Iowa team that held Michigan in the Big House to 13 first downs on top of what Tony said. And if I told you that Iowa was going to turn the ball over 4 times and have a -3 turnover ratio in Ann Arbor, yet have a chance to win the game in the fourth quarter, you would have probably said, I don't think so, but yet they did. I think they catch Penn State at the right time here, Tony. Texans at the Chiefs. I'm getting hungry. Little steak dinner coming up for this kid. Sorry, Tony, I won't say why. Maybe you can. I got a question for you, though. This is going to be our...
I love the over. You just gave an opinion out on the under.
This is going to be the... That's the thing. I mean, it was only an opinion. I would like to say that I had, a couple dimes on it, but it was an opinion. But it got me a steak dinner at Bob Taylor's, and you can't beat that with a stick. Listen, this is our marquee matchup in the NFL, so we'll dive into it a little bit more in just a bit. So to save time, I'll just say this. Mahomes, 46 for 81. 56.7% passing the last two games. Let's save this one for later with the marquee matchup, but I can't wait for that steak, and I take it medium rare. So,
okay.
So get ready.
Good enough. Whatever you want, baby. Bob Taylor's on me. Ladies and gentlemen, the Saints taking on the Jaguars. This line, Jaguars, -1.5, total 44.5. Something a long time ago my grandpa told me. If it looks like a dog turd and smells like a dog turd, it usually is a dog turd. This line stinks to high heaven. You want to jump all over the Saints on this. That's the surface thought here. I tell you what, Jaguars still Minshew magic. They got gashed last week by McCaffrey.
He was pretty bad in that game.
Yeah, he was. But this here, I'll tell you right now, I thought if the Saints could go play 500 ball without Breeze, that they still had a chance. They're 3-0, Scott.
Yeah. Well, Bridgewater, what they did is they finally let him open things up on offense. Sean Payton did last week, and he ends up going, 26 for 34, 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns, and a pick, 314 yards passing through the air. Going to be a tough out this week. Drew Brees not back yet, but they're opening things up for Mr. Bridgewater. Eagles at the Vikings. Vikings laying 3, total 44. Vikings open 3 at home to the Eagles. Some shops have dipped down to 2.5. Squeaky wheel gets the grease, the life lesson there, besides the dog turds. And Adam Thielen last week talking about throw me the damn ball. It sounded like Keyshawn Johnson. Guess what? Cousins threw him the damn ball, and he had a big game, Thielen. 7 grabs and a couple of scores, and Cousins he passed all over the place, 22 for 27. That was a play for us last week, the Minnesota Vikings, and they got it done against the Giants. Your thoughts on this one? I do know that the Vikings have some terrific spread numbers, but they've only covered 1 of the last 8 against teams with a winning record.
I think the Eagles are one of those teams that's playing a lot better football than a lot of people are noticing, but I got a totals alert on this year. The total 43.5. We know the Vikings got a good defense. We know the Eagles are playing better defense. Matter of fact, Minnesota 18-5-1 against the spread on the under. And I think this is going to be a defensive battle here. I kind of like the under there. A 2017 type ball game would not surprise me here at all, Scott. Let's take a look at the opposite end of the spectrum and a couple of teams that are scoring points. More so one than the other. 49ers taking on the Rams. 49ers off a big win on Monday Night Football. Yes, I have to. I needed that after a split on Sunday. But nonetheless, the Rams, a little bit of a free fall offensively, have not looked sharp this year. They kind of got early going a little bit last game. But the 49ers right now, little injury there in the running game last night. Want to see how that pans out. I don't think he's going to play. And Garoppolo, for all the pomp and circumstance, him coming in there, he still missed a lot of passes on Monday night. And but at the end of the day here, I think there's going to be a lot of scoring in this game at 49.5. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's even up to 50 in some shops.
This is a hugely important game in that division.
By the way, watch the free video picks also. Tony I had San Francisco as my free pick on Monday night. We went 2-1 over the weekend. We don't win every single day, but we did go 2-1. We had BC on Saturday on the free pick video, Boston College. Lost on Sunday, had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as the free video pick, and then came back with the Niners on Monday night. This team has one of the best DVOAs, if you like metrics, of any team in the entire NFL. Talking about San Francisco, they put a whipping, obviously, on Cleveland the other night. But you're right. You know what? He talked about Kyle Juszczyk, the fullback for San Francisco. Love the I formation by San Francisco. Love the usage of the fullback and the tight end. It's old school football. But he did sprain his knee at the very least on Monday night. And as of right now, they're saying it could be anywhere from a week off to 12 weeks to get better with that knee problem. That changes them to a single setback offense. And I think that would tend to maybe push you towards the over on the play you like, because they're going to have to throw the ball around a little bit more. For me, it's a pass until we find out a little bit more about Juszczyk later in the week. Looks like he's not going to play this week, though.
And one thing about this game, too, the 3.5, that hook, you may find out what the value of a half a point is this weekend if you're laying. If I was taking LA Rams, I'll tell you what I would do. I'd lay the $1.20 and buy it down off the hook here. I think it's going to be that tight of a game. And bear in mind, the Rams have not lost 3 games in a row since McVay's been their head coach here. There's a lot of stuff going on in this game, Scott, and there's a lot of implications down the stretch because this is a divisional game.
I'll wrap it up with this real quick note. Jared Goff now 7 touchdowns, 8 interceptions his last 6 games going back to the Super Bowl when New England said, hey, NFL, here's the blueprint to holding this offense in check. He's Tony George. I'm Scott Spreitzer. Thanks to Mark behind the camera. Don't forget about that $60 free account. Click on the video or click on the link below the video, and you'll be happy that you did, I believe. Tony, best of luck this weekend. Best of luck to you guys. This has been 10 and 10. We'll see you again next week.